Jackie. I'm a mathematician and theoretical physicist from Liverpool, and in my spare time I'm also training to become Britain's next astronaut. Now, when I was invited to speak about my favourite fact by Amelia, I couldn't really pick one fact, so I wanted to talk about a group of facts. In particular, a group of facts around women in space, and even more in particular, the first woman in space, Valentina Tereshkova. Valentina Tereshkova was the first woman in space. She got to fly to space as a cosmonaut, which is the Russian word for what we're more familiar with as an astronaut. And she got to fly to space on a Vostok 6 in June 1963. This was just 2 years after Yuri Gagarin had flown to space himself. Now, Valentina's mission was quite similar to Yuri's in that she didn't go very far. She stayed within Earth's orbit and she orbited the planet almost, I think it was around 48 times over a duration of 3 days. Valentina was from a working class background and she'd never really considered a career in space before. Her dad had passed away when she was quite young and her mother had kind of worked to make ends meet. Valentina's job was in a textile mill, so not something that you would normally associate with someone who was going to go on to become a cosmonaut or an astronaut. Valentina had no real qualifications for the role of cosmonaut, but she had a passion for skydiving. And it was this love and passion for skydiving which would help Valentina get selected as a Russian cosmonaut. After Yuri Gagarin had returned from his space mission, the first man to go into space in 1961, it was rumoured that America had been training female pilots to become their next women astronauts. Now, this wasn't necessarily a lie, and these women were known as the Mercury 13. Well, the Soviets, or the Russians in today's terms, didn't like this. They didn't want to lose to America and they wanted to win them yet again in a race. It was the head of their cosmonaut training who said, "We cannot allow that the first woman in space will be American. This would be an insult to the patriotic feelings of Soviet women." That's when they began recruiting and found Valentina. The initial criteria for the role of cosmonaut at that time was that you had to be a woman, you had to be under the age of 30, you had to be less than 5'7", no more than 11 stone or about 70 kilos in weight, and you needed to have experience of parachuting. After lots of tests, a group of around 400 candidates was whittled down to just 5, one of which was a mathematician and one of which was Valentina. Valentina was selected to fly on a Vostok 6. She was promoted to lieutenant or lieutenant, depending on where you're from, and a day or two into her flight was promoted to captain. Now, in Russia, or the Soviet Union, there's a tradition that all astronauts or cosmonauts must wee on the back tyre of the bus that they're taken to the launch pad on for good luck. This was a tradition set by Yuri Gagarin when he was getting suited up. I guess it took a bit longer than he expected, and just as he got to the launch pad, he realised that he needed to go for a wee. And with nowhere else to go, he simply turned around and weed on the back tyre of the bus. And since then, people have considered it a good luck charm, along with things that you might have heard of, like American astronauts eating steak and eggs before a launch, or having your rocket blessed by a priest. Everyone who has been to space since has also followed these traditions. Valentina was definitely one of them, and she wasn't going to let the fact that she was a woman stop her from taking part in weeing on that back tyre. Sealed inside the Vostok and on the launch pad, waiting for countdown for about 2 hours, Valentina was finally able to launch to space. And when she was up there, she used her call sign Chaika to call down to Earth to let them know that everything was okay. She said, "It is I, Seagull. Everything is fine. I see the horizon. It's a sky blue with a dark strip. How beautiful the Earth is. Everything is going well." Vostok 6 was the final Vostok flight, and upon coming back down to Earth, ejecting from her capsule, Valentina used her parachuting skills to parachute down the final 4 miles back down to Earth. When she landed, some local villagers helped her out of her suit, and she then had dinner with them that evening. Valentina has since gone on to become an international role model. Even today, at the age of 83, she's a role model and an inspiration to women everywhere. So even if Valentina had been a bit naughty in not telling her mum where she was really going when she was actually going to space, telling her instead that she was just going on a really high skydive, Valentina goes down in my books as someone who's very, very special, someone who pushed the boundaries of her time, surprised the men around her, and has since gone on to become a role model and an icon and an inspiration for women and girls, not just in Russia, but around the world. Since Valentina, we've seen over 65 women from a range of countries train as astronauts and go on to work in space, including just over a year ago, the first all-female spacewalk with NASA astronauts Jessica and Christina. And I hope that we will go on to see more women in space in the future, including hopefully one day myself.